I think the only tip that I could give, which worked with me very, very well, is relearn yourself. Let go of everything that you thought was right or wrong, and rediscover and see what's suitable for you.
Assalamualaikum. Welcome to Tenang is Good podcast, brought to you by Become, where we talk about mental health issues, mental health struggles, and how we navigate, the tools we use. That's what we're going to share today. Today topic, very, very special. It is acceptance versus expectation. What is that? Can we have a balance when it comes to accepting what life is? And can we be mindful for our expectation? And how do we do that without anxiety? So we have guests here. Let's welcome Aiman, fitness advocate. You do so much.
I don't know anymore.
What else do you do, Aiman?
Wow, production, I'm a part-time singer, dog walker.
We have Aiman. Thank you for coming, Aiman.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Miss Sharan
Thank
Kaur, Counselling Psychologist at Mind Faculty, Solaris, Kuala Lumpur. Thank you
That's
so
right.
much for coming.
My pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. So this is what we're going to talk about today, yeah? Acceptance versus expectation. Maybe you can start with, can you explain the concept of acceptance in the context of mental health?
Well, it's a big word, yeah. And I think sometimes we use it a little bit too easily. We just throw, things like expectations and acceptance, etc. It becomes a little bit of a word tongue twister as well, isn't it? But acceptance is a very deep sense of comfort with whatever is going on in your life. Yeah? Whatever it is that's happening, we have to come to acceptance. But there's a process. I wish it was easier. I wish it was just magic, but it's not. Nothing is, magic. There is a process, and there is a degree, I suppose, of how we accept whatever is going on in our lives. We can talk about that a little bit later on. Expectations is, I think, something that we all struggle with all the time on a regular daily basis. Sometimes we don't even know where these expectations come from, whether they come from internally, whether they come externally, whether it's from conditioning, whether it's from your grandmother's story, that turned up when you were a kid that you remember as an adult. We are constantly dealing with expectations around us. Now, we have to figure out what works for us and what doesn't work for us.
So you're saying we are conditioned to expect.
Many expectations come from conditioning. We don't even realize, as we are young, we hear things, hey, pergi sekolah, you must be the first boy, first girl. These things become expectations that we put on ourselves without even us realizing where it's come from. That's conditioning.
Right, and that's why it's hard to navigate, yeah? Correct. Sometimes we don't even know the root of why we expect these things. Although, it's okay for me to have standards in life. Can I kind of expect to have I think it's fine to have standard, but when it's detrimental to your mental health, then it's a problem. Right. So, Aiman, can you share with us your story?
Wow.
Getting out of depression?
The process is not easy. Accepting stroke, it's one big ordeal already, right? It's
So
a big
you
task.
had a stroke.
I had a stroke first. Yeah.
When was this?
What year was that? I believe it's 2020. Yeah, doing
Recent,
MCO
yeah?
time. Yeah, that was that year, right?
Right.
Yeah. Wow, it's been a while, hasn't
It's
it?
been a while. It's been 3 years ago.
Has it been 3 years?
But seeing your recovery,
I am
3 years is amazing. Wow.
It was. I didn't remember much in that starting point. If we're gonna talk a little bit about it, But when it came 6 months of like doing physical recovery, traditionally, medically, going for therapy, physical and mental, I just kept to the things emotionally. Well, I've never been an emotional person, right? I've been quite a positive light since I was young. So that came out on me easily, right? So I kind of rode with that. I rode with what I understood. I ignored what I didn't understand and allow time to kind of provide me this information that I understood. But to see how I perform physically, that's my profession. That caused me the depression. I couldn't understand how my body works. I had to relearn a lot of things. In the midst of that, I forgot how to move in many ways.
What was your condition at the point of the stroke? Were you unable to move?
I was pretty much a vegetable. I was probably 70% of my physical was not connected properly. I couldn't maneuver. My speech, I was slurring.
So severe, pretty
Very severe.
I can't.
I couldn't even remember my name actually in the first
At
month.
one point,
God.
yeah, can imagine. Yeah.
I couldn't remember people that are immediate in my life, people that are actually there helping me. I didn't know who they are. But I was feeling so good because everyone's being so nice. And I accepted it. And I couldn't even digest that I was not well. And that was the scary part. No one said anything I was not well, but I was going through these procedures and I knew I was not well. But I didn't know to what degree. As the memory comes, and funny enough, how I'd start recalling people was just going through my Facebook and Instagram, right? And then looking conversations thing. But that took quite a process. But the part that broke me the most was the physical state. Yeah. Not remembering people, I thought was a blessing,
Right.
It can be.
It can be a blessing, I'm like, I'm glad I don't remember that drama.
Aren't you glad did you forget about me?
Sorry? No, I didn't. The thing is, I remember people for their faces, but I don't remember the story. Correct. So I always, when I feel like someone's familiar to me, I always make an initiative. I'm like, I think we met.
Yeah.
And spark the conversation if I want to take that moment if I have the capacity to receive it, right? So this kind of attitude helped me go through the depression because I already accepted and I knew how to manage myself for some reason. And then I think along the way, I understood time to time that I guess my past character was I always like to manage things well, the best way I can. I don't remember the whole process. I remember to a certain degree, and some things are familiar. But all I could say is I don't feel like the same person. I don't know what that means entirely, but I really don't. And that's kind of scary because I'm still relearning after a few years. So acceptance is the biggest key. I think I've taken the time to accept the procedure, accept the knowledge, accept who I am right now, and just relearn. And I think then it kind of like suppresses the expectation of what I need to be or what I was and where I need to be in the future. Right? So I'm like, okay, I'll roll it out. It's a new world. I mean, not many people get second chance in life, right?
True that.
But I think part of the reason the acceptance came to you was already the fact that your personality was such a positive one.
True.
Even before
Right.
the trauma that
This
you
is
had
nice
to go
hear.
through.
This is my first
I
time.
mean, you said
someone's
that.
telling me,
You
yeah,
said
yeah,
that
yeah.
you were a positive person. You always saw the glass half full rather
Yeah.
than half empty kind
Yeah.
of person. And
Yeah.
someone who took charge of their life. Those criteria actually contributed to your recovery.
I agree. I actually believe that. It was a train of thought that I had for a while, and it's nice to hear it. Very refreshing. Thank you.
How do expectations impact a person's mental well-being?
As I said earlier, in the earlier part of what I was just saying, that expectations come from all sources in our lives and throughout our lives. From the time we can process information, we are taking in expectations, right? Simple things like what you're expected to do around the house. You are the firstborn, so you take some responsibility over the younger ones. These expectations just come in so many different ways. Now, it doesn't mean they're good, they're bad, they are right or they're wrong. What is important is how suitable we are to the expectations. So you will find some people very resilient to a lot of expectation. They're fine, they're good. They do, they power on, they carry on, Some people don't. Some people find it difficult, some people rebel against it, some people just deal with it in a very negative way. The issue is understanding where you are with regards to the expectations. So, as I said just now, your acceptance of what happened partly, not fully, but partly was because of the kind of person that you are.
Makes a lot of sense.
So depending on the kind of person that you are, you will also know how to manage the expectations that have been put on you.
I imagine the life to be this way, right? And when it's not met, when it didn't lead that way, I felt like I criticized myself a lot. I was hard on myself. And I think this is when I guess that's the whole process of accepting when I fail to actually, when I realize that this whole expectation that I create for myself so that I can live this way or live that way or like a certain standard, then when I start to accept where I'm at, only then I can move. But some people cannot do that.
Mimi, the first thing I want to ask you is, are you sure that that picture you had painted was your picture?
Exactly. I didn't know. It
is a picture that may have been created for you.
Yes, exactly.
And if that happens, then when you don't match it up, that's when you spiral into the self-criticism. But if it was your picture and your picture alone, this is how you drew your picture. And if you don't get, you will be motivated to find a way to get.
True that.
Very different.
Very different.
Very different.
Right. So the thing, meaning what you're trying to say is we need to understand where this expectation come from. Because sometimes it doesn't come from you. It comes from maybe your parents or peer pressure.
Society. Communities, TV, social media.
So Aiman, any tips to change your expectation and accept where you are?
I think the only tip that I could give, which worked with me very, very well, is relearn yourself. Let go of everything that you thought was right or wrong, and rediscover and see what's suitable for you. Not to implement to others, right? Because people not know your process, but to just restudy yourself. And I think that's something that's very important. What you feel discomfort, you let go. What you feel comfortable, work with it. Because if you don't relearn what's right and wrong, it's harder for you to learn to accept what's right and wrong. And only then you have your expectations so high, you can't build your pillars to reach there because your groundworks of right or wrong, it's non-existent. You get what I mean? So that really worked for me. Yeah.
Is it possible to find balance?
Before I address that, Mimi, can I just sort of
Yes.
You were forced to relearn because you went back to the drawing board. The
That's
slate
very
was
true.
clean.
Actually, you're right. You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you were forced to relearn. But people, we wouldn't wish this on anyone. But how does one relearn when they are still living the lives that they continue to live?
That makes a lot of sense.
That's the $1 million question, I think. That's the golden thread. That's why a lot of people come for therapy, but they are not yet willing to let go, to give themselves an opportunity to relearn. The perfect candidate for therapy is someone who comes in and saying, teach me. Let me relearn, because whatever I have learned is obviously not working for me.
Right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't require.
It's like people have to reach the extreme to accept it.
Correct. And coming back to that question, when you are just doing whatever is expected, power on, something breaks. Something. Whether it is the physical, the tiredness, the fatigue, the inability to sleep, the high anxiety, the lows, the depression, can't get out of bed, something breaks.
As if it's not sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is not sustainable. It's not, because it's not what is right for you. And you haven't given yourself a chance to figure out what's right for you.
So how can we differentiate between healthy expectations and unrealistic ones?
I think part of it, not a full, complete one simple answer. I think part of it is knowing who you are. Learning to know who you are, learning self-awareness, self-realization, learning to look inward. And if we learn to do this from a younger age, and I mean, I'm not putting a number to whatever that age is, but if we start, the faster we start learning how to do that, the more comfortable and the more we are willing to accept who we are. Now, accepting who we are is good and bad. So we know our strengths, but we also know, these are the things I need to work on. I'm not so good at time management and it's actually not working for me. I should figure out a way to start learning how to manage my time better, for example. So as we are more attuned to have some kind of realization and some kind of inward awareness, we will be able to know what is realistic, what is unrealistic, what works, what doesn't work.
Right. Plus,
Makes a lot of sense.
right.
Yeah.
Plus, the realistic ones, it is quite flexible and it's adaptable. It's expansive in a way. It makes you feel open. But the unrealistic one is the one that, to me, it seems like so rigid. It's rigid. And it's like, I don't know, it's a perfectionistic kind of approach there. When I felt like the burnout or when I'm drained, it's actually because I am putting a lot of unrealistic expectation for no reason, but we do that, yeah?
We do that to ourselves.
Yes,
We do that to ourselves. I'm glad we all agree on this one thing, that
Yes.
we're actually doing it to ourselves.
Right, we are doing it to ourselves. Now let's talk about strategies, Miss Sharon. Now that we accept, now that we are aware, let's talk strategies. What strategies can be used to let go of unrealistic expectation so we can reduce our stress? And
Well, I
anxiety?
think, as I said earlier, the first thing we need to do is start figuring out who we are. What's right for you? We are now grown-ups. We are now adults. We are now totally able to process information. We are able to process our experiences. So the first thing we need to ask is what works and what doesn't work. What has worked and what hasn't worked. But in asking that question and therefore answering that question, when I say works and doesn't work, is not achieving,
Got
what
you.
feels right.
Yeah.
When I say what works and doesn't work, is what feels right. Because achieving, sure, if I want to get 100% in this exam, I study like crazy lah. At least I'll get a very good mark. But if that wasn't something that you were okay to do, you were happy to do, again, nobody likes to study. Nobody really likes to get up and go and work out. But why do we do that? Because we know the end goal. We know that working out is going to make us feel good after that hour, and in the long run, this is the benefits we're going to get. We know studying hard is going to feel good when we get the test of the results.
Process.
The
Yeah.
results of the test, and we know that in the long run, we are going to get the benefit out of that.
Yeah.
So if we are able to process that, then we are able to strategize our lives.
Yeah.
So when you say
Yeah.
therapy helps a lot,
Oh, yeah.
is that what happened to you? Like where you can express who you are and you can figure out
I
you
think
really
it's I think generally humans don't really share the train of thought, right? And trust is the biggest issue. I mean, we love our family, mom and dad, brothers and sisters, or your partner, but we don't generally share every detail. True. Because sometimes we think, we dismiss it, or we take it, how to say it? We dismiss it most times, right? And when you acknowledge it, sometimes that's where the problem is, because you're probably hiding from something, or you thought was something that is so small, but if you keep on stepping on the small Legos, it becomes something painful, right? So when you acknowledge these things and you hear from another train of thought that says like, hey, this is good, that's bad, that's something you need to think upon, that's something that probably you should sleep on about, you should maybe change. It helps you strategize better, right? So I think having that pure conversation with someone is what I've been looking for, and it really helped me. Right? No maliciousness. I like, who do we talk to nowadays that doesn't have an agenda or two, right? For example, right? And that's why you want to keep your loved ones closest to you, because you can not be judged, right? But you want to be guided. So therapy really helps me on that side, because I know I'm not being judged. I'm not. It's not malicious. It's to really help me structure things out. So it's helped me a lot.
True. And I mean, for me too, like when I go to therapy, I talk about my family. It's only because I do realize that this expectation come from family and society, social media, just like you said, Miss Sharon. And, you know, it kind of like forced me to conform to certain norms that I find like, or achievement or standards that I find it's not me. Like it make me feel like, and if I want to go there and get it, I feel like I'm inadequate in a way. Like I feel less than. And that's when I feel like, but this is how therapy makes me see that, like, because I can share all this thing that I feel about my family, or about, you know, just so that I know, oh, I'm not supposed to do this to myself, because this expectation comes from this thing. And only through therapy that I realized that.
Yeah, I have a better clarity, which I love, you know, and you accept the worst, you know, and it makes things easier. Yeah.
Accepting something, our mental psyche is such that if we understand the detail, the minute, the 1, 2, 3, the XYZs of something, we can accept. As you understood
Yeah.
the problem that occurred
Yeah.
to you, the acceptance came. The more you understood,
Exactly.
the easier it was for you to accept.
Way easier. Yep.
What is the most difficult thing for us to accept? Death. Why? Because we don't understand. And we cannot understand. We cannot possibly understand death. That's why it is the hardest thing for us to accept. When you go to therapy and talk about your family, to come to acceptance of who they are and what happened, you can't change it. It's past, it's over, it's done. You can't even tell someone you did this, and you may, but it's not going to change anything. But for you to come to accept is for you actually trying to figure out the understanding. And the more clarity you have with the understanding, the process towards acceptance will come naturally.
It's amazing, Miss Sharon. Thank you. That is so good.
Do you feel relieved now?
I feel like you need. I mean, that's gem right there. When you say we start to understand, only then we can accept. I mean, to me, when it comes to expectation, when it comes to acceptance, I must have mindfulness in that, and self-compassion. In my journey to accept something, I cannot bully myself to grow. I feel like I developed this self-compassion where I'm kinder to myself, or how I speak to myself is less harsh. So do you feel like because we understand it, only then we can get there? Because some people are really just continue to be hard on themselves because they don't understand.
You used 3 words just now: mindfulness, self-compassion, and self-talk. What I said earlier was self-reflection, awareness, understanding ourselves. That's the mindfulness, that's a mindfulness practice. The more you are mindful, the more aware you are of what you are feeling, thinking, doing. That's the 3 components, right? What we're thinking, what we're feeling, and how we are behaving. The whole practice of mindfulness is to be able to, at every given moment, know these 3 components. Right now, I am so aware that my hands are moving. I am so envious that your hands are not, because I don't want my hands to move.
It's heavy.
I'm mindful that this action, which is a natural action for me, is not something I like. I'm trying to. So before, when I talk, my hands would. Now it's here. One day it'll just be here, right? Mindfulness. So I'm aware of my action. I'm aware of how I'm feeling. I'm aware of what I'm thinking. And if you can keep in that cycle, you will always be compassionate to yourself. Always. Because at the end of the day, we are our only person.
That's right.
We are the only person we have, as much as we have family and life partners and friends and a lot of people around us. We have ourselves, which comes to self-talk.
Right. The way we talk to ourselves.
The way we talk to ourselves.
Right.
That's so true.
And we talk to ourselves more
We
than
are
we talk
so
to others.
critical of ourselves, and that's where the whole thing breaks down.
What do you think when people say acceptance means you're settling? They don't accepting, because to them, to accept what's going on it means they're settling and they don't want it.
As you said that, I'm thinking a lot of people who are married.
Okay, share.
A lot of people who
That
are
was the
married
same thing that came to my mind.
Yeah?
Yeah. Marriage
would say,
issues.
I have to accept my partner. But the self-talk is this why I have to settle down? Settle for? Not settle down. Settle for. Isn't that obvious mismatch of what your expectations are and what your partner's meeting of your expectations? It's a mismatch. So you have a certain expectation of your partner. Your partner's not meeting that. Your partner is here. So you settle. Not a compatible, good communication kind of relationship. Sounds like there must be some work that needs to be done so that we can meet expectations. And when you meet expectations, both ways, it's not just one person screaming. Both parties are meeting each other's expectations, then you'll never feel that you have settled.
Wow.
I'm not married. I wouldn't know.
I got divorced, so I know.
I'm hanging in there 33 years later.
God, happy for you. How many dogs?
2 kids and 2 dogs. And 1 grandchild.
When it gets really hard to change your ways of or unlearning or relearning things that you find, it's bringing you down. And when you accept it, and then you are doing things different so that you can get to where you are right now. When it gets really hard, what did you do?
Whew. I'm going through something right now. I'm very disciplined when it comes to work, right? We'll get there to you. So how I manage my emotion is like an investment. I see the ROI. So if I'm going to take a lot of time thinking about the process that's probably, for example, out of my control or makes me unhappy, I'm like, okay, if that's going to take me 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 day, 2 days, 365 days of focusing on this one matter that I could not resolve on my own, I'm going to invest that time onto building and putting the hardship into building something good, even though it's hardship, because I know it's going to turn out something good. Even though it doesn't, but I know I tried to aim for the good. So something that's out of my control, I totally let it go. Yeah, I'll try my best in that moment, and I'll give myself a cutoff time, because the returns are not good. I think many things that if I reflect on as I was a child or going through my adulthood, where I try to control a lot of matters or try to resolve a lot of matters, because I think that's the right way, right? There was no benefit to it. It is just about satisfaction. And I think that sense of satisfaction, if it brings us life, it brings us dollar and cents, it covers our home, then it's okay. But if it's just self-satisfaction, I guess that's another topic to talk about, right? Like figuring out why do you have that satisfaction for it, right? Why is that crave to control, right? Fear, whatnot, right? So I decided to just let it go. And I'm like, I'm going to invest my time in the positive. But it'll be at the back of my mind, but it affects me lesser.
But it's just there. It's like
Yeah.
changing channels. It's not that the horror channel is not there. It's just
I know it's there,
Right.
but I'd rather invest my time watching Disney.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's it, guys. That's it for today. That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's amazing, yeah? I
Yeah.
love that. It's just two combinations of speakers here. I learn a lot from
I'm a
this
subject and not a
podcast.
speaker.
Well, you speak. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button if you like it. And comment whatever that you find you're struggling with when it comes to acceptance and expectation, guys. To those who are looking for these ashwagandha brownies, you can check it at my TikTok account, TikTok shop. See you guys. Bye.